Alright, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. Before I even get started today, I just want to show off one of the favorite plants I have that's not one of my bonsai trees. This is actually an Orthophytum. It's in the bromeliad family. This is the original plant here. From the original plant I bought, this is actually maybe like the 20th grandkid or something like that. But in this pot, this is the original plant with this bloom stock. I'm going to give you guys a real close look at it. When they, after they bloom, they die, but then they have a pup, and this is the baby plant coming up here. But this thing's bloom. When I give you a close look at it, just see why I like it so much. And this thing is just one of the most interesting looking blooms I've ever seen. Got little flowers within the flower. I understand if you let this on here long enough, you can even get baby plants off these plants. I think I tried once and it lived, but it was so small I just didn't keep it because I get so many babies off of the original plant anyway. And there we go, even a little bit of a better look. Just want to show that off before I edit this video. Didn't really want to do a whole video on it. It's a Crape Myrtle tree. It has seen its better days for sure. Haven't ever really even done much styling or wiring or thought about what the front might be or anything like that on this tree. Almost everything I've done has always been in the name of either health or trying to preserve the health, get it to grow, whatever. This was, if you go back, this was one of the original videos I made actually. It was like the third or fourth video, but I had actually dug it out of my yard. My neighbor kept stepping on it. So I dug it out of my yard. I put it in a pot that was way too big for it. And then let it grow in there for a couple years and then put it in this one. It's been in this one like 3 years now. I noticed last year, in a minute I'll try to give you a little bit of a close-up. It's got a ton of lichen growing on it. Got a couple of air plants growing. The lichen and the air plants do not do no harm to the plant at all, but it is a sign for me that the trees just really haven't been growing all that well. I see the lichen on my yard trees or even some of my other trees in pots. And you can see where they grow, and the new bark will kind of split away, or I guess the old bark splits away from the lichen, and the new bark or the new growth kind of comes in there, and the lichen kind of either fades out or just kind of is a little splotchy, where this one's kind of taken over a little bit. Like I said, a little bit of a sign of slow growth. And I had thought last year that it was because of the damage from the hurricane, but I actually kind of towards the end of the year realized that it's probably more along the lines of it just needs repotted. And I thought about doing it last fall, but even here in Florida, this is definitely a deciduous where it loses all the leaves in the winter. So I decided I'd just kind of treat it that way and wait till spring. And it's got, these leaves are now, they've kind of gotten a little burned up from some spring winds out there. We get some, really late winter winds, but for us here at the end of January, it's kind of like springtime. But it does have some buds, and even right here I can see some that I didn't even see outside till I got right in here. I'm a little bit closer to it and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and repot it today. It has been 3 years in here, and 3 years ago I was using a little bit less quality soil than I am now. Had some turfus in it, so it tended to get caked up. And I'm probably going to just put it right back in this pot depending on what I see when I get it out. If it's just a normal root ball, I definitely will. If it's bigger than I think it might be, perhaps I'll put it in a little bit of a bigger bulb pan, but I don't think I have the single step up right now available. I got 2 steps up, which again might be a little overpotted. Do a little bit of, like I said, I've never really done the styling. The only styling I've done on it has been in the name of either health or just trying to create a little taper. And that's kind of what I'm going to do now. It did bloom last year. It's got some seed pods on there, several of them. So it didn't look horrible. It just didn't really, I'll just say after the blooming, usually after the blooming it'll get a good little growth spurt, and it just really didn't. And before I go into repotting mode here, I just figured I'd show you some of this. Some people liken, and some people don't like it. They take it off. I actually kind of like it, but where it is completely grown around there on my other trees that do have it, you know, it never really completely grows around like that because the tree grows too fast. Like out here, it looks like it's not growing at all. The tree grows too fast for the lichen to really colonize it like that. With the repot, it'll start to get a good growth spurt. Some of the stuff down here is even peeling off. All right, just in case I forget, I keep meaning to clip this off. And let's see what we got going on in here. I always do have a root hook ready, but then I wind up using my hands anyhow. This is also back when I used to use window screen in the bottom of my pots. Kind of finding out that might not be a good idea. There's actually been a couple times that I've almost forgot it was in there. But these bulb pots do have some, you know, rather large holes in there. Just put that in just to keep the better substrate from coming out. But actually now, this was the old substrate that I used to use. And now I use some little bit better stuff, a little bit bigger particles. I think I can just kind of use it, and it only really comes out if it shifts around. And then once the finer roots kind of get in there and colonize themselves in there, it really doesn't, I don't think it'll really fall out much. Also, that window screen was in there for 3 years. I can feel I don't know, it doesn't not rot by any means or anything, but it's a little bit damper than most of my trees are, I feel like, right now. And that screen was pretty well clogged up. So again, I'm trying to sort of talk myself into that once I repot this tree, it'll regain a bunch of health, because I have been kind of worried about it. And let's see. Pretty much about what I expected. Perhaps maybe minus the wetness. Should be decent. This was at this angle here. I think I am going to try to tilt it up just a little more. You can see where it kind of looks like it is actually, like if it was in the wild, it was a tree that was actually maybe broken, kind of bent that way, and not really creating anything all that interesting. So if I try to maybe fix that up just a little bit more, not quite as obvious, you know, like that, but a little more like that, perhaps it'll help. This stuff has the turfus in it. This is the old mix that I used to use. Kind of breaks down a little bit over time, but as matted as that is, just a little bit of some root material in there, I'm going to use that before I just put the better substrate right in there. And like I said, if I just put it on a spot on my bench where it doesn't move around all that much, it really shouldn't spill out that. And then, just to get a good look at the different sizes of particles there of the newer mix I've been buying. $10 more than that other mix. I think it's worth every penny of the $10 more. Since I am turning it on its side just a bit there, I want to make sure I get enough under the changed angle and not just on top. Alright, and there we have it. I do like the angle change. Hopefully it regains some health. I did notice though, in some angles, this one makes it kind of look like it's crossing. It's just nothing but straight anyhow. I was saving it because it had the little airplane at the end, but Maybe I can make some use out of it somewhere else. There's still several up here in the apex, and there's one down here. So as far as trying to save a couple, at least I left them. Alright, then I repotted this guy at the end of January, and here we are in the middle of April. Just thought I'd try to save that video and show you guys that it has recovered completely. It has, this time of year, I do always hear that everybody says crepe myrtles grow so crazy around here. I actually find they get a little burnt. Maybe, I see a lot of big ones in people's yards, but I think maybe keeping one in a pot might not be the easiest thing to do. Did leave it in the shade for at least a month, and it was showing signs of recovery. I have brought it in and out of the shade a little bit. It also seems to get some kind of a caterpillar that eats holes out of it. This branch was actually where it started kind of growing out. I pinched this one back several times. And then if you live in South Florida, especially on the west side over here, we get some really drying winds, and we don't get much rain through these early spring months. So just keeping up with the watering, but has fully recovered. And I also dug up its big sister. I'm going to take a look at that here just 1 second. Alright, and I'm going to try to include a few pictures of why I dug this thing up. This is the big sister, so it's spent, I'd guess another 3 or 4 years in the ground compared to the other one. It really grows through some weird growth spurts in that it'll grow a bunch in the spring, and then in late spring it'll actually stop growing because we do get these kind of drought conditions, and it'll grow fine all summer. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the picture. It was bright and sunny out when I dug it up, but there's actually a big chop mark right here of where the main part was actually coming up, and there's almost no leaves on that, and there's just a little handful out here. And so I went ahead and just chopped this and dug it up, and for right now I'm just kind of leaving all the growth. I'm even leaving some of the sucker growth. I'm just going to let it recover in this pot for at least a couple years. I've got it mostly in the dirt that I dug up with it, and then just some of my standard used soil that I use when I either dig things up or get things from a nursery. I'm going to show you the lichen on this guy and some of the good trunk here, and you can see all this lichen. One of the reasons that people prize crepe myrtles is for their nice smooth bark. And you can even see here, I didn't take a before video on this one. It's already grown enough to start shedding some of that lichen and start showing off some of that good bark underneath. It really is, I dug it up. I don't remember exactly when I dug it up. I'll try to include that in the video. Once it's fully recovered, I might even get in here and go ahead and just clean all that off with a toothbrush and see how much trunk I can show off. Alright, and I figure while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and show this guy off too. This is sucker growth that I actually just dug up off that bigger plant a few years ago. Surviving pretty well. It's got a bit of a hideous looking stump there, so I'll have to see if I can make something at least interesting enough with it to kind of, overrule that or override that a little bit. It did bloom last year. Still has some of those seed pods hanging out here. Didn't really notice that. I'll clip those guys off.